In roller derby, holding space is an empowering, often intimidating act of strength and strategy for oneself and/or teammates. Holding Space, the podcast, clears the floor for conversations that touch upon race, class, identity, and privilege to amplify stories, build community, and make more connections in the skate world. Expect lots of smart, dope skate people musing about life on and off 8 wheels and silliness. Can't forget the silliness that you never knew you needed and won't be able to live without. This is Holding Space with Magical Realism. Welcome. What's up, y'all? Today's guest, CoCo Butther of San Fernando Valley Roller Derby, needs no introduction, partly because she's such a mainstay in skaterly environs online and IRL, and also because I just want y'all to listen to CoCo herself, who is passionate about BIPOC visibility and inclusion. I'm confident everyone will find a piece of CoCo's experience resonant, though, be it skating her way through small, medium, and large leagues in search of a space that fit best, or coming out, or dealing with the bitterness and sweetness of being a Black skater in roller derby. Enjoy. CoCo, I am a fan. You're one of those people that I see in the derby world, and I see myself. I feel like I respect the shit out of you. I mean, like, I see myself, but at a way higher skill level.
No.
At a more accomplished level, but as an aspirational model, I should say.
You know what? Yeah, and it's always the way you see someone else, because I see you in that light.
So
this
sweet.
voice that you're giving to people, and you're giving space literally to people who probably wouldn't have space anywhere else, or an opportunity or a platform. And so I see you as just the same. I'm like, I am so inspired. Like, I'm sorry, can I ask you what your pronouns are?
My pronouns are she and her. What about you?
Okay. My pronouns are also she, her.
Yes.
But I look at you and I say, oh gosh, she's doing this stuff. Maybe she hasn't been in derby as long as some of us have been, but oh my gosh, she got in here and she's like, I'm gonna make this better. I'm gonna make this different. And you did it sooner than some of us had the courage to do. So you're an inspiration to me.
Thank you kindly. This is a work in progress, and this platform belongs to everyone. This is like an attempt to, amplify. And you're right. It was so weird. It's like, you feel that there are voices and experiences missing from the conversation, but you don't hear them. And then all I had to do was like buy a mic at my local photo video store, and here I am finding all of the people that I knew intuitively existed. You know what I mean? Like, there isn't a shortage of brilliant people in this community, present company included. I swear, like, it's
listen
just
now.
amazing.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. And so so it's really dope. So I'm just like, here are the people that I knew existed. Here are the people that deserve to be on the mic, because while I definitely appreciate that the higher level skaters get love, because in the grand scheme of things, derby is like a tiny pond in, a ocean of sports, right? So people who are like busting their asses to like do that D1 work, they don't hear it anywhere else. They're doing 9 to 5s like the rest of us, right? So that's cool too. But then there's like a big void. Yeah, like I'm just like, there are just so many talented people, but all the cameras and all of the mics are pointed in one direction, and I was just like,
they're pointed in one spot, and it's kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Amen.
And it's like everyone was out there wanting to share space and to talk and to have a place where we could all say, oh, yeah, I feel that too. But we never really got the opportunity. So you built it, and now there's all these people here and thanking you for it.
Of course. No, and it's like, and it happens again and again, right? It happened, like, I'm sure when Scarby Doll and whoever else helped her, like with the founding of BRD, and which we'll talk about, I'm sure, she kind of like had a hunch and started, just opening this space for people, and Mick Swagger, where you and I met, but Mick create a space for people to speak out, and they are huge inspo to me on and off the track too for that work. But, you know,
Yeah.
and like the same with Neon and Olive and all the people who are creating those Instagram accounts, you know, it's just like every time you create it, people like, it's almost like a magnetic effect. People come because they feel it. So yeah,
it's
so that's
funny because I think people think it's the reverse. People think, oh, you created all of these different networks and these different IG accounts and all of these different things, and people then joined those things. And it's really completely the opposite. Everyone was out there without a flag or without a land to call their own. And then all of a sudden these things kind of organically came out of that. And then it's like, oh, I'm not alone. There's so many more of me. I just had no idea. I didn't know where to find the other me's.
Totally. So, and it's always like a leap of faith. Like you just start up an account or you make an event and you're like, I hope it works. There are people. Yeah, I think there are people. And people always show up. There's always fam. There's always community. Anyway.
Always.
So I guess let's start from the top. Hit me with your origin story. How did the Derby World, you know, how did you come into contact with the Derby World?
I love that you said origin story too, because I am like a huge comic fan, Marvel and DC, but I really love DC. And the fact that you kind of called it that just makes me feel like a superhero. So I'm going to take that, my origin story.
You are a superhero, hon. Like, own it.
I am a superhero. Yes, I'm going to own it.
CoCo Butther, superhero.
CoCo Butther, the superhero. Initially, I am one of those people that I think my story is a lot like a lot of different people's, but I was a rink rat. And, you know, there's those kids that just hang out at the rink all day and all night. And my parents were fine with it. They got me my own pair of skates and they're like, well, we know she's in there. We know that's where she'll be. And I taught myself to skate. I taught myself to skate really well, to skate backwards and do all those things. And I'm a little bit older than most. So that's when roller skating was still really, really cool. And I would spend Friday and Saturday nights at the rink. So I've always skated, but then I got away from it. And, you know, as an adult, it's like, well, where do you find opportunities just to skate anymore? No one, you know, if you're the weird 40-year-old skating around with a bunch of 12-year-olds, you're that weird person. Sure. So now being the rink rat isn't as cool. So, okay, I'm going to name drop a little bit.
Was it a rink rat I remember like earlier you made a tweet, you tweeted about United Skates. Well, you were part of like that subculture. Did that resonate with you?
It does. It does. Yes, you saw my tweet. I'm such a fanatic on that stinking Derby Twitter.
But I feel like I'm getting seen and like people are like, you live on here. And I'm all like this backhanded compliments. I'm like, I guess I do. Thanks.
No, but I mean, you live on there, but it's like you're one of the people whose content, like I will just put your name in so that I can find you and see things that you're talking about recently. There's certain people like that like Meg Fenway, like there's certain people where I know that they're talking about something. Not to say that Twitter cannot be just fun and fluff, but there are certain people I know are talking about real stuff that I really want to talk about. So, you know, you're one of those people on Derby Twitter where it's not just all fluff.
Thanks.
You know, we're talking about, you know, the fluffy stuff, but we're also talking about, you know, injustices and things that should be amplified and voices that should be heard. And did you see this? Did you hear about that? Mess. Right? Or Whipped is doing this. Did you all know? And let's go back and let's give them some feedback and so on and so forth. So Derby Twitter is mess, but it is also a network of contacts that we've all, again, one of those places you build it, they will come. And we've all found each other, you know? So yes, I love it.
It's also like, you know what I love about it? It's that it's not behind the wall. It's not like a leak Slack. It's not like Facebook or like groups or forums, you know what I mean? So it's very easy to access. And even though it's that public, people for the most part are still civil, you know, like, they're still like meeting substantive discussions-ish.
But if they're not, you know, people are right there to let them know about themselves, which is also very, very transparent, you know, where someone may not hear a call out or see a call in. But on Twitter, you're going to get that feedback immediately. You know, they're going to let you know right away whether or not this is cool or it's not cool. And I like that immediacy of it. And I love that it's all levels. There's, you know, brand new baby skaters to the vets. and everyone has kind of an equal voice.
The retirees, so, like there are also people who still engage even though they've stopped skating or stopped
absolutely
competing or officiating and stuff. That's also cool.
It stays relevant forever and ever. So
cool. That's cool to see
I don't
too,
know
because
what I was
it means that you like love the sport itself, like, you know what I mean? But anyway, we're in the midst of telling me about, like the greater you, not, you know, like people who join Derby Twitter. I'm sure I know you love it. You wouldn't do all this if there wasn't love attached, I wouldn't think. But
love hate. So
we're going to dig into that. So without further ado, you were in the midst of starting your origin story, superhero.
Yes, my origin story. So I was always a rink rat. I could skate. And I used to live in Bakersfield for work. Bakersfield's a little small, dusty town about an hour north of LA. And for work, I happened to work with none other than the wonderful, talented, amazing Ima Blabaya. And Ima and I were friends. Her husband and my brother are very, very close friends. And Ima and I shared a wall. Our houses we were literal neighbors where we shared like a wall. We could look over each other's walls at each other's backyards. And Ima found out that I could...
Of AZRD fame. Yeah. Who's
yes.
now at
I'm a Blobaya. Yes. Of Arizona roller derby. And Ima said, "Oh, you skate?" I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "You need to play roller derby." And I said, "Nah, I mean, that sounds cool. You mean like the Thunderbirds?" And she's like, "Yeah, but better. You got to skate. And Bakersfield, though it's a small town, had like 5 or 6 teams. And she's like, you got to skate. I hemmed and hawed for about like 2 years. And I was probably weighing like 285 pounds back then. And I was like, there's no way I could skate and live. So I dropped weight. I started working on my fitness, not just to get thin, but because I wanted to be healthy enough to be able to play this sport. So I ended up getting healthy enough to try out. I started with a teeny tiny league called the Bakersfield Diamond Divas. They're teeny tiny league, but full of heart, amazing, amazing people. And once they knew I could skate, they were like, you're going to pass your minimums in as quickly as you possibly can because we want you to skate. So I was doing 27.5 like every single practice. And then I hit my laps probably like my 4th or 5th practice. And then I bouted within like 2 months of having started skating. After I did that, Ima left me. I was like, "I'm leaving, CoCo." And I said, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I'm going to Angel City. I'm looking for more competitive derby and I'm ready to make the move." So she started commuting back and forth. And because of work was able to actually move to Los Angeles. And she's like, "When you move to Los Angeles, I'm going to need you to start skating with Angel City." And I initially was terrified. I was like, no. I'm going to go with one of the smaller leagues. I'm not ready for a D1 league. This is, scary. I don't think I can actually cut it. Name drop again. I actually had a clinic that Smarty Pants came to while I was in Bakersfield. And Smarty and I we got some time to kind of talk about my goals and what I wanted to do with roller derby. And they were like, so supportive. They said, if you have the option to train in the D1 league, why wouldn't you take it? I really, really support you making that jump. They were so supportive. I thought, okay, I've got Ima saying go. I've got Smarty Pants saying go. I'm going to go for it.
And in the back of your mind, I'm sure you yourself were kind of like, it only took like a nudge, right? Like, I'm sure you were ready and wanting that challenge.
You know what? It's funny you say that because, but I think there's always this place in every skater, every derby person's mind that imposter syndrome, that, if they're saying you're good enough, maybe you are good enough, but there's always that self-doubt where you're like, no, I couldn't possibly, I'm an imposter. They're seeing something that's not real. But if they hadn't said that to me, I think I probably would not have made the jump. I wouldn't have tried. And that push was all I really needed, a little bit of encouragement that they thought I could actually hang tough. And I did it. and transferred to Angel City. And man, that was probably one of the best choices I ever made in my derby career. It's the kind of training that you will not get anywhere else.
So just for context, what was the size of the Bakersfield team, or like the league size to your leap to this bigger, to the big leagues, to the D1?
So man, Bakersfield Diamond Divas, I'd say maybe 40 people. And I'd say that would include volunteers, coaches, that would involve everybody. That's everything. And then making the leap to Angel City, I think Angel City, with all of the teams, and if you include Parks and Ref, which is the refs and officials, it's got to be pushing 200 and maybe 2 plus. And then all the alumni, you're adding like another 50 active alumni. It's pushing close to 300 something people. And it was intimidating because you walk into the warehouse and you see the rockets on the walls and you see the red and gold and you say, oh my gosh, this is, bigger than I can do. This is more than I'm capable of. And initially, I think it was, the kind of training that we received, I was not prepared for. We CrossFit before every practice and it's really just to build endurance. So listen, if you just did an hour of CrossFit and then you're going to skate for another 2 hours, when you just have a game, your body's going to be like, this is easy. I can do this. And that's the kind of training that you get. And the coaching is amazing, but the way Angel City is structured, the coaches are typically the team above you. So I was able to skate as a shore shot, which was the regional A team. So our coaches were Tui Lyon, Rachel Rotten, Juana Tees. All of our coaches were these amazing Hollywood Scarlets that have been playing D1 for however many years. And they were passing all of that knowledge on to us. We were playing the same strategies that they were playing because they fully expect you to eventually move up to that team. So I stayed there for about 3 years and joined the board of directors. Did so many things. I dove in both feet and I just really developed a love and passion for roller derby and for that league and for that team. But then I started to get really burnt out and I thought, I don't know that I'm really cut out to skate anymore. I don't know if this is for me anymore. The kind of time that I've been devoting to this that is required of a league like Angel City, I don't know if I have the time to do it. And I was commuting probably about an hour and a half to like an hour and 45 minutes every day in traffic, or 3 to 4 days a week in traffic. And I was missing time from my boys and I was missing time from my friends and I was starting to lose it. And so the opportunity came to join another league that's about 20 to 30 minutes down the road from me, San Fernando Valley Roller Derby. And I've been there since about March of last year. March, April of last year. And this is fitting kind of my roller derby lifestyle for now.
What do you mean by that?
The requirements at Angel City was, you're practicing 3 to 4 days a week. And, the commute is the commute. You're going to make that commute. Very, very high expectations as far as involvement, volunteer hours. I was working on the board of directors, which was basically another job. So you have your life job, but then you have your derby job. And it was, emails all day, emergencies, media contacts, just all day kind of things. And the requirements were getting to a place where I was like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. And when I moved to SFV, the attendance requirement is a little bit less. You do still have jobs, but it's also, the expectation that you're going to be a Scarlet one day is not there. And I knew at the age of 43, when I was competing and trying and working so hard to become a Rocket Queen or a Scarlet at Angel City, I started to really realize they may not ever see you as that. So if they never see you as that, what's your goal now in a highly competitive league?
Where's the end goal, or where's the destination there?
Exactly. What is your destination? And Angel City, and I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Angel City is very clear about what the goal is. Your goal is to compete at the highest level you possibly can. So if I trying and working and working and working towards becoming a Rocket Queen or a Hollywood Scarlet, and they just don't see it for me because I'm not physically what they're looking for, or maybe I'm too slow, or whatever it was, the feedback that I'm getting back, lots of different things. Then I start to question. I say, well, then what is my end game? What is it that I should be focused on? And I had to really sit back and think about that. What was my goal?
And what are you getting out of it? If you're putting all of these hours in, you have how old are your sons?
I have an 8 and 12, 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds.
So then you would have had like a 6-year-old and like a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, those years aren't ever coming back, you know, your time is precious. So I can understand that must have been a really difficult struggle.
It was a struggle because there's also, you know, you don't want to disappoint anyone. I'm thinking to myself, I want to be the best derby player that I can be. And they have this expectation that I can be this, and I'm falling short. And so I'm falling short as a mom because I'm spending hours away from my children. And I'm falling short as a derby player because I can't put in the kind of time and energy that they want me to put in to be able to compete at a D1 level. So I'm just failing at everything. And that feeling started to make me doubt whether or not derby was still for me until I reevaluated what my goal was. And my goal was really, now it is to play at the most competitive level that I can play at, and that meets my needs. So now I'm on the charter for my current league, SFD. We're the like OMGs, and the OMGs are tough. We've traveled all over the country. We play teams from Brussels. We played Baja, Mexico. We've played all kinds of teams from all over the place, but it's not at the same level as, say, the Scarlets would be. And the requirements are not at the same level.
Is San Fernando Valley Roller Derby, is it ranked is it with the Derby team?
Yes. It is
okay.
ranked. It is ranked. We're like ranking somewhere around like 120 or something like that. So
awesome.
Playing with, go ahead.
No, yeah. My follow-up question was going to be, what's the team culture like? Like, what's the ambition there as a group? You know, because you made it really clear that at Angel City, it was to compete at the highest level, and everything is sort of geared towards becoming a Scarlet and that sort of thing. What was the change? What was that shift in like the league culture for you at SFV?
At SFV, the culture it's culture shock, actually. When I initially went, I thought, these people are absolutely crazy, but they are crazy in the best way. The culture shift has been playing as much as we can, as often as we can, anyone who will play us. And that's kind of like amazing to me, you know, where you're coming from another league where they're like, oh, well, you know, that won't do anything really to help our ranking, so we're going to say no to that game. Or, you know, we're not going to do this because it, you know, wouldn't really help us do anything. Whereas this league is like, we want to play as much as we can and have as much fun as we possibly can doing it. So it's exactly the derby I needed at this point in my life, where I started to fall in love again with skating and fall in love with teaching and coaching and sharing my love of derby, and no expectations to anyone that, you know, you eventually have to be a smarty pants, or that you have to be a V diva, or that you're going to be any one of these, you know, D1 players with your name on the side of the roller skate. But you're going to play the best you can play and as hard as you can while you can, and enjoy it. So,
and you know what I love about that? I love that derby provides experiences for you to even like simultaneously be a vet. You were like a vet of like 4 or 5 years, and then also a brand new skater. You know, kind of like turn the page and turn the corner and start over again and dust yourself off and figure this one out and figure out if you like it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you're fitting derby around your life as opposed to your life around derby. Would you say
Absolutely.
that's accurate?
It is super accurate. Yeah, I feel like initially I was living to play derby, and then my life was happening. Now it's like, well, I'm living, and, you know, derby is part of that. And I've had to reprioritize what's most important to me. Derby's still in my top 5, I'd say, but realizing what limitations I have and what I can and cannot do, and being okay with that and still playing to my strengths. You're exactly right. I was brand new and a vet at the same time, where I'm going to this new league and they're looking to me for leadership. They're like, oh, you played at this league and you've got this much experience and you've got this and that. And I'm looking at them like, well, I'm brand new here. You know, I'm still learning what your culture is. I don't know what you guys do. And it's
where do you
kind
keep
of
the forms?
invigorating.
Where's the ice?
Right. Where do I go?
I need to refill my water bottle. And y'all are like, right, like, you join her for
simple stuff like that. Right. Simple, you know, simple stuff like their little chants, you know, every time like our team has these chants and these little different things that we do and say. And I'd be standing there kind of, I don't know, mumbling, but it's been kind of invigorating to be brand new in my 6th year. You know, I've been skating for 6 years, but I'm brand new again. So it's kind of an amazing dichotomy that you're right. At least in this sport, you can be brand new and still be a vet. So
that's great. Yeah. You're like shaking up the snow globe, and it's awesome that you were able to find something that fit you best, because I feel like sometimes, given the area or the circumstances, some people just have to walk away, you know, or some people are so fed up that they walk away, and that's really unfortunate. I guess, how big is SFV?
Oh, I think we're probably about 100 plus.
What is the structure in terms of like travel versus home, and do you have juniors? Like, what's that like?
I love that you're asking me all the right questions, because our founder, Kilo Kitty, you'll hear Kilo. If you say Kilo Kitty to anyone, especially in California, everyone knows she's absolutely bananas. But she founded this league, and she sent me a list. She's like, make sure you talk about all of these different points.
Oh my goodness, are you talking to other people about talking to me? How dare you?
Right?
I'm so embarrassed.
I was telling I told Kilo, I was like, hey, you know, is there anything you want me to say on this podcast? Magic's going to have me on there. Is there anything you want me to say? Her notes are directly, this is it specifically. Also, please say Kilo is so amazing. She taught me everything I know.
I love Kilo.
But our breakdown
talked about Kilo enough.
She's perfect. She's going to be happy. Thank you for saying her name multiple times. She's freaking crazy. But league's about 95 plus, almost, you know, about 100 people, about 60 skaters. And so then we also have volunteers. We have juniors. The league started as a juniors league. And so there's about 20 juniors. It's so funny, because in Los Angeles, we have so many leagues that are right here. You know, Angel City actually wrote WFTDA recommendation letter for SFV to start. So they're kind of like our little sister league down the freeway. Yeah. So, and I'm going to be playing my old league in March. So it's fun. I get to still see people that I used to skate with, but now I'm going to, you know, bash them up real good. And it's still really close knit. Listen, they got to know I'm not done. So I'm going to come back and remind you.
They're going to get these hands. I'm just kidding. No hands.
They're going to get these heads. They're going to get these hips. They're going to get this butt. They're going to get these shoulders. They're going to get all of it. They're going to have
legal
targets.
All legal targets.
All legal. All very, very legal. But that's what's so fun about it, because I can still, you know, that's one of the beautiful things about Derby is that, you know, I can go back to my old league and bash them up as hard as I can. And I fully expect them to do exactly the same back to me. And that's what shows love and respect. You know, if I went down there and took it easy on someone, they'd be like, oh, she's not even worried about, you know, what we've got going on down here. But no, if I go down there and I really work hard and I try to bash the hell out of them, they know, oh, okay, she respects me. Nice. She thinks I'm a threat, so she's working hard. So
that's awesome. And so I also wanted to ask, given that I and the rest of like maybe 99% of the people listening aren't in California, could you give us a sense of like the sort of demographic breakdown and like, you know, you said, and just how, I guess, closely or well regarded in Derby, like is Derby followed in your area of California?
Really, we're really lucky in Southern California, especially, you know, I think all of California, because if you go up north, Bay Area, and there's Sacramento, there's all those different leagues that are really close knit. And then The next pocket is LA. And within Los Angeles, I'd say all within no more than an hour of each other, we can get to about 10 or 15 leagues. There's SFV, which is the league I skate for up here in San Fernando Valley. There's Angel City Derby, this little further down. There's LADD, which is the Los Angeles Derby Dolls. That's the bank track. There's LA Renegades. So they skate Renegade, no rules. And there's Beach Cities, which is in Long Beach. There's just so many. And then you go a little further down, there's OC, which is Orange County. Everything is probably within about an hour commute. And so there's options for people to skate here in LA. There's a little league probably in every little suburb. And then there's, Angel City. And it's a close-knit community. Everybody pretty much knows everyone. Each different team kind of has their own reputations, and everybody plays locally, which is great. But LA has definitely become one of those cities where you can go and see Derby, almost every single weekend if you wanted to. Whereas there's some towns where it's like, okay, well, there's only Derby every few months. LA is not that town. You could see a match probably every single weekend if you chose to.
I love that. That's so amazing. And the whole, it seems like the whole ramp scene is really picking up too, right? Like,
oh my gosh,
that's grown.
CIB
recently.
CIB is huge. Chicks and Bowls, and I know. Well, I think they changed their name.
They rebranded. Another CIB
rebranding. Yes, CIB.
They've rebranded. Yes. CIB Crew. That's what they are.
Crew. Okay, and they are huge here. I mean, Venice. It has all these ramps, and people know OJ, Octane Jane. Octane Jane used to be a Hollywood Scarlet with Angel City, and she's doing like crazy aerial acrobatic stuff and working with CIB. And so it's pretty much any kind of skating that you want to have, you can have in LA. If you want to skate bank track, there's bank track. If you want to skate flat track, there's flat track. Renegade, no rules. You can skate Renegade. There's ramp skating and all of CIB. There's also Moxie skating, so beach skates. We have Moxie down here. Pigeon, who runs Moxie, skates. It's just beach skating, and there's always an opportunity, especially the weather affords us an opportunity to kind of always be on wheels. So I don't ramp skate because I don't want to get hurt. But I beach skate probably about 2 or 3 times a month, and it's just something we're really fortunate to have here. It's the skate community in and of itself is more than just roller derby in at least in LA. If you're on wheels, it's everyone's kind of included: beach skaters, ramp skaters, derby skaters, bank track skaters.
It's okay, Northeast. We have beach skating too. We just get hypothermia if we do it right now, but it's all right. We can still do it.
Listen, I saw you complaining about that weather. I thought you could keep all of that. Yep, you can keep it.
Lucky. Y'all are so lucky. Anyway.
Hey, don't be jealous. Come down here. You can come and hang. We'll show you all the places.
I really need
there
to.
You go.
You know what the thing is? My secret is that I don't drive. So I really feel intimidated by like car culture
LA.
And all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, it's so funny.
I'm such a New Yorker that I don't have my license.
I was going to say, you're a New Yorker and you don't really need it. When I lived in Manhattan, I remember thinking like, I'm going to forget how to drive. I'm going to forget. And that was a real thought. I was like, okay, I've got my Metro Pass and that's all I need in life. But then what do I do when I go back to California? And it all came back.
Let's take a detour into CoCo Butther, the New York years. You were acting and tell me more about this. Fascinating. So you know how cold here. You
I do
experience the winter or two.
Man, I left in winter. I remember standing at LaGuardia and I did. The LaGuardia, LaGuardia has that, they have that sign out there that says like the time and the temperature, and it said 19. I was like, what?
You're
and
like,
then, Channel 1. It's right. I said, what 19, what? Celsius? What is this are you talking about? And then, Channel 1 comes on and Channel 1's like, oh, we recommend no exposed skin today. And I'm thinking, wait a second, no exposed skin? Like, I'm a person. I have eyes and a mouth and a face. What you mean?
What am I supposed to do with the skin?
What do I do with the skin? It was November. I was like, ooh, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm gone.
It ran you out.
It ran me out. It was too cold. And I was broke. I was so broke, you know, because New York is feast or famine. There is nobody doing okay there. You are either broke or you're doing real well. And I just remember feeling like I should be somewhere in this middle place, but I can't seem to get to the middle place. I'm still broke. I was an actress and, you know, working 9 to 5 and then auditioning on the weekends and doing all those different or not on the weekends, but around my work schedule. I remember just thinking, you know, there's no way for me to really survive here. I sacrificed a car. I sacrificed a good diet. I mean, I was on some ramen for quite some time.
Is this when you were in college or like when in life?
I graduated from college and then no, let me rephrase. I didn't graduate from college because I said, I'm a theater major. I don't really need this degree to do anything amazing. I'm going to fly myself to New York. And my parents supported me. They said, yeah, well, go and try your luck and do the best you can. And I flew out to New York and I lived there and I auditioned. I had an agent. I got a few things here and there, but, you know, it was just so hard to maintain it. I ended up feeling like, oh, well, what's the next step? What's the next step? So then I decided to move back to California. And I'd say probably about 3 or 4 months after I moved back to California, I got a call from this casting agent that I'd been working with, Bernard Telsey in New York. And Bernard Telsey was like, we want you to do Rent. And I was like, well, I left New York because y'all didn't call me.
It's funny you should mention that. I left because of the rent.
I just said, I had no rent, so I had to go. Yep. And now you calling talking about, would you like some rent? Right. So I said, people are crazy, but you know, I couldn't pass up the opportunity. So I ended up auditioning here in LA and went out on tour for a while and did that show. And I've done a bunch of other shows. And I just remember feeling like, okay, what's my next big thing? And nothing really compares to the terror and the joy right before walking on stage than roller derby. I mean, it's the only other thing I've found that gives me the same joy and fear, like that roller coaster fear. That exhilaration. And I thought, okay, if I can't go on tour anymore, I can't tour the country because I've got a spouse and I've got kids and I've got, you know, life here. What else am I going to do? And then I found this amazing sport that gave me the same, you know, that feeling like, oh, I either am going to kill this right now or I'm going to poop my pants. And I found it in Derby. And so it's like, okay, this is that thing.
That's the inner monologue.
That's it. That's the inner monologue. It's like, I'm either going to do or I'm going to do this.
Yes.
So I found that to be kind of like the thing I could compare most to the most exciting part of my life. Derby is now my theater.
Hell yeah. I love it. What have been the biggest rewards for you in terms of like your Derby play?
I think my biggest reward has been finding out that I'm a badass. I feel like a lot of people go through their lives and they think I'm pretty tough. I'm pretty amazing. I'm a badass. But you don't really know that until you've done something that has challenged you physically and emotionally to really test whether or not you are. And I love that my boys look at me and they're like, wow, Mom, you know, you're a badass. They don't say that because that would be bad. I don't allow them to curse. But they are impressed by the fact that I'm athletic and that I work hard, and on the track I'm respected and a little bit feared. And to them, that makes them, that to me is one of my biggest accomplishments, because for a long time in my life, I just thought, you know, I'm just this woman. I have never felt empowered like I do when when I've started playing roller derby. You know, I think the other thing that has been super beneficial is I found my people. I came out as queer probably about the time I really started getting serious into roller derby. So, you know, I was skating with these people that were very open and honest about who they are and really willing to share their experience and exactly what they're about. And I remember always feeling like, oh, well, I have these feelings or these thoughts, but that doesn't mean that I'm queer. It just means, I thought everyone had those feelings and those thoughts. And the roller derby community really helped me kind of figure out exactly who it is that I am.
I think I understand what you're saying in that sometimes you hear the word queer or you hear the word athletic or badass, and somehow you don't feel like you have the right to those terms, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
And it's not until
syndrome.
Yeah. And it's not until you get comfortable in yourself and almost like defy what you thought were your limitations and see that you are all of those things, that you actually have the you have the ability or the agency to kind of claim those terms and titles. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
to
feel
claim
that.
it. Right. Where real. People think it's, and I feel like people think that, oh, I can't possibly say those things about myself, or I can't claim that role, or I can't say that I am these things. And I think roller derby gave me the ability to say, I absolutely can. And like you said, to claim it. I can claim that I'm queer. I can claim that I'm strong. I can claim that I'm athletic. And own those things and be proud of them.
There is like no more badass thing than a Black woman, mother, like killing it in life. Like that is the epitome of badassery to me. I'm like, you are badass by birthright. Like this is like,
I like that.
Isn't it dope? Because it's the truth. I was like, of course you're badass, but I'm glad that roller derby brought you closer to that realization. You know what it is too, I think, because it's contact sports aren't supposed to be a terrain for women, Correct. Somehow like that also is off limits, so that when we take control and claim that space as well is when we really like uncover truths, I think.
Absolutely. And if I think the way we push young, cis males to be athletic and to run and to do all of those different things, women mostly have never been conditioned to do those things.
To claim aggressiveness, to claim aggression and assertiveness and all of the attributes that come with like competitive play.
All of those things that we commend a young male for doing as they grow up to be a man, it's exactly the opposite for a woman. And I love that roller derby kind of flips that on its head when you say, oh, that was very aggressive. Nice. It's completely the opposite of what women are always conditioned to be. Don't be aggressive. Don't speak up. Don't take space to, speaking of the podcast. Don't be loud. Don't be big. Don't be, 1,000 different things that roller derby says, yeah, be loud, be big, take up space, be aggressive, be strong. All of the things that I think young girls could really benefit from having the freedom to do,
And when you get knocked down, pick yourself up, knock other people down. Yeah. And when you get injured, heal, rehab, and come back to it. Like it's bones break and you heal them and you get back in there. And like that, I agree. I totally agree. What have been the challenges for you, would you say, in your 6 years and your tenure thus far?
It's been a blessing and a curse. I think being Black in roller derby is a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing because we are the minority where, we're the unicorn. You see one of us on the track skating and it's like, wow, they stand out. And I think we stand out most of the time because of our prowess and our ability. But then again, it's also a curse. We stand out. And some of the things that have been very trying for me in my roller derby career has been being Black in derby, being equated to, as we were just talking about, aggression, being too aggressive, or hearing people say things like, oh, CoCo's going too hard. She always goes too hard. It's like, well, if I were a less imposing presence, would you be upset with me for going hard? If I was blonde and thin and diminutive, would you say, oh, you're going too hard? No, you would say, wow, what a good job you're doing, fighting and working so hard. Being Black in roller derby comes with so much baggage it's a microcosm of the world. So we cannot automatically expect that this roller derby community is going to be any different than the rest of the world that we live in. But because we have this expectation that we're so diverse and that we're so accepting and we're so open, I think it's more painful to African American skaters because we hear that messaging all of the time. Oh, roller derby is so inclusive. Roller derby is so, diverse.
Roller
but
derby,
then we don't
like,
feel
it's
that.
going to strain its shoulder, patting its own back when it comes to
Right.
diversity. It's going
I'm
to.
saying, how many times you gonna tell me how diverse it is? You're telling me how diverse it is. Listen, I am the diversity in your sport, and you're gonna just keep shoving it down my throat. Like, if you tell me enough times that it's diverse and inclusive, maybe I'll believe it. I'm not sure who they're trying to convince, but you're not convincing me of any of that. I need to see some actionable content before I believe how diverse and inclusive roller derby is. You're right, breaking it back to say these things, but not actually putting things into action. So I think that's been the heartbreaking part of it. I've had people call me names. I've been called the N-word on the track. I had somebody call me buckwheat. I've had experiences that make me think, wow, this is not my sport. Mm-hmm. But in the same breath, that's nothing different than anything else I would have heard in the world. Someone on the street could call me a nigger. Somebody walking in the mall could call me buckwheat. But I think it's so jarring and painful for the roller derby African-American skater because we think we're in this safe space where they see us for our athleticism. They see us for what we can do, what we can accomplish on the track. And then it's always jarring and surprising. You say, oh my gosh, no, I'm still in the real world. This is still just America. This is still just this country with its own hangups and issues. And so I think it's even more painful. I mean, I've cried because I thought I was in a safe spot. I thought I was in a safe place. I thought I was surrounded by people who knew me and cared about me. But whereas on the street, I'd be like, yeah, you call me the N-word and I'll call you whatever I call you and keep it moving, because you're more prepared. So
and
I think that's hard.
It's not the word itself because unfortunately, as you said, it's so commonplace. And look who's our president. It can happen anywhere. This is how we live. These are our times, sadly. But it's within the context of Derby, in Derby, that's supposed to be this utopia and this empowering place. It's like, oh no, that's not for you. You're not welcome here.
You don't deserve that utopia.
Yeah, you don't belong here. Yeah, this is not for you. That's I feel like the most bitter part about it, at least for me. Let's flip the coin because I also think that, like as I was telling you earlier, in fact, you and I met in a gathering of skaters of color at RollerCon a couple years back. Our community is such a source of inspiration for me and and motivation and superhero worship. Like, I just feel like the skater of color community is amazing. And so I would like to ask you about your experience. Not that you should have the same experiences as me, but like, I think that having, followed you for some time and seeing you participate in the annual Black Roller Derby Network exhibition belt at RollerCon, that community means a lot to you and that you're very active in the skaters of color community. What does community mean to you?
Community means to me, as far as I would say, my community within like the BRDN or in Team Diaspora, it's a place where you have, and I don't want to focus everything on trauma, but you have shared trauma, right? We've all experienced this thing or whatever that action is, or we've all had similar stories. And I think within the community, what it says to me is, we all have these same experiences. Now, what do we do to make it so that the next people coming in behind us don't have those same experiences? And I think community is so important because, if you're skating somewhere in the Midwest and you're the only skater of color for miles and miles and miles, you may think you're alone. You may think I'm the only Black kid that likes to play this sport. But visibility, seeing that there's a community out there for you, seeing that there are thousands of people who look just like you that love this sport, that's what's so important to me. the Black Roller Derby Network, the Team Diaspora team, working with people with African American backgrounds or just African backgrounds. And then the way we've been able to team up with all of the other different teams, with JRD,
like
with
the decolonized teams.
Yes, all of the other teams that have also sort of come out and shown support for one another. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it makes it that situation where you feel like, yes, you're a part of this small community, this little subset, but it's so much larger than that. And when we have Team Indigenous helping out and watching BRDN games, and then we go and we watch them, skate, and then, Jewish Roller Derby has a game. Oh, everyone, we chime into one another. Hey, make sure that you go watch JRD play at 2:00. Oh, okay. Team Indigenous has a game at noon. Make sure that you guys go in and you watch. Supporting one another, that's the broader community that I think empowers me even more than being surrounded by other African American skaters, knowing that they recognize, it's not just them versus us, or it's not just these individual smaller communities fighting amongst one another, but I think we feel like one giant community. Mm. All of these other marginalized or POC groups, people of color, that have come together to say, no, we want to take space. We want to show that we have a place within this sport and be an example to other people to bring them into the sport. Visibility is like, I'd say 80%. Teams always say, well, what do you want us to do? We just don't have any Black skaters. And I'm thinking, okay, you don't have any Black skaters. Why? You don't have any Black skaters because you don't have any Black skaters. You're not showing that you have any Black skaters. You're not putting anything out there showing that you have Black skaters. You're not showing that you have any people of color. And so that's why I've been really, I advocate for people putting out flyers, posters, advertisements that show the different dynamics within their league. It's maybe this week, and it's a very fine line between tokenism and actually advocating, showing, and visibility,
inclusion.
And inclusion. It's so hard to say, well, we put CoCo on the flyer last week because, we wanted to have somebody, a person of color on the flyer. But you can't put CoCo on the flyer every single time, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you do then if you don't have CoCo on the flyer? What are the other things that you can do to show visibility? One of the things that used to kill me about Angel City was we practiced in Gardena. Gardena in LA, for people who may not be familiar, is blackety black. It's black. Okay, Gardena is one of the blackest areas of the county of Los Angeles. And I always remember thinking, we're practicing down the street from, churches and community centers that have all these young kids in here that have never seen roller derby, never really been exposed to it. And then, Angel City said, that's true. You're right. And so they started reaching out and inviting those kids into the warehouse so that they can say,
you were behind that?
Well, we started these thoughts years and years ago. And so the conversation from diversity and inclusion, when we started it at Angel City about 3 or 4 years ago, was what do we need to do to get people in here? And so we started the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Diversity and Inclusion then would partner with another group that would go out and do sort of community service. So then it was about focusing community service on the areas within Gardena. We can do community service anywhere in LA, but why not do it in the city that we practice in? So I'm not going to take credit for it, but yes, we were part of the decisions when we were making those choices years ago.
I think it might have been during your tenure, because I remember, I know that you also handled the social media accounts for Angel City while you were there for a season, I want to say. And
I did for 2 seasons.
For 2 seasons. Pardon, I'm sorry. My fact checking department. Someone's head's gonna roll for that. No, I'm joking.
You're all right.
So I was like, it was such a dope account. It was the accounts were so dope. You had different little campaigns, not campaigns, but spotlights during Hispanic Heritage Month and issue and African American history and things that are still being practiced. I think a lot of the stuff that people do nowadays with the quotes and what have you I don't think I saw it before your work, especially especially, well, maybe in like the Derby context for sure.
Yeah.
It was quite inclusive and quite diverse. And also I think I remember like seeing pictures of an event where there were like kids from like the urban area in LA. And I was like, this is so dope. This is amazing.
I mean, because it's New York City. It's not, I mean, you know, there's Black folks out there that could skate, you know what I mean?
It's like,
especially
I'm
in
starting
New York.
to call you honey so much. I'm calling you
I
honey.
love it.
Okay, cool. I'm calling you honey out of like, just, I don't know.
I love it.
But like,
honey, hunchy, I'll take all of it.
Thank you, sweetie. But I also don't want you to think like, why does she think I'm Honey Presto? Like, I don't want you to like.
No. Oh God, don't bring up Honey's name. She's so funny. We have this little group of black girl skaters.
I want to ask you about that.
Oh, so you know,
I'm gonna ask you about that. I follow your Instas. I want to ask.
Oh yeah.
You do like pictures about this. Okay, so but like my point was, I was like, God.
See, I think initially I ran social media when I was on the board of directors. Marketing was my pillarhead, and I worked really closely with Rachel Rotten, and I think once she and I had a conversation about what I wanted our social media to look like and what I wanted it to do and how I wanted it to reach the world. And, you know, I think especially these D1 teams, top 10 especially, have a responsibility. I know it's not fair and it's not, you know, it's unfortunate that we have to put it on them, but they have the visibility that other smaller leagues don't have. And so when I told Rachel, this is what I plan to do, this is how I want to run it. I want there to be a social aspect of it, but I really also want there to be social commentary. I want it to be very inclusive. I want it to be very diverse. We're going to celebrate every type of person we have in this league. We're going to do pictures of all of the Latinx people. We're going to do a campaign for, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month. We're going to do a campaign for Indigenous Month. We're going to do a campaign for every single group of people that is present within the league, so that when other young people or other skaters see this social media, they can see themselves in it. And if they see themselves in it, that brings them to the sport, possibly brings them to the league, but more importantly, brings them to the sport. And so Rachel kind of gave me the autonomy to do what I wanted to do. And because February is so early in the month or in the year, I said, we're going to make this the blackest account anybody's ever seen. And so we highlighted every single Black skater that we had within the league. One of my very first posts was of Fear of a Black Planet, is what I used to call them. It was Honey Brasco, Soledad, Booty Ninja, and I'm a Blobaya, coached by Ron Anderson.
Amazing.
And all 5 of them were on the track, and they were the very first jam. I remember thinking, I've never seen anything like that, right? And that right then and there told me, if you see it, you can be it. So I kept telling them, listen, if we put this out there and they see that we're here, they see that this is available, people will come out of the woodwork. And so that passion kind of led me to continue doing our social media for 2 years. I loved it. Being a Black woman, you have the ability to kind of say things that I think other people may not be comfortable saying. But because I was African American and I was posting it, it came out okay. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's harder for other leagues that maybe don't have as much of a POC presence for them to do the same thing, but it doesn't take a lot to do some research and find out about Minnie, who was, you know, the very first roller derby player, or for you to figure out all of these different things that skate culture has been touched by, you know, the African American community. I would want people to be as passionate about visibility as I am, because I feel like that's the only way we can diversify the sport, is if we show how diverse it is and that we're there. All of these different type of people exist in these leagues and in this sport. And if you see them, maybe you see yourself.
Let me tell you, like, it's almost like there's something in your brain that activates when you see a derby skater of your complexion, of your, you know, of your race on the track. You're like, I can do it. Like, there is me. I am there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's something super powerful of it. I think of the moments where like I first saw Bonita Applebaum play, or like saw Freight Train, or saw Queen, and you know, just like those moments. And it feels weird to say this, but I think so much about Beyonce, the retired Gotham player from like way back when, because like I'm like, what would Beyonce do? Because such an incredible player, such a legendary player, you know, that you just, those moments stick with you because you see those people, you see those players, and there's something subliminal that's like, there's a home here for me. There's someone that looks like me here. This could be a home for me. This could be a place for me, a sport for me. So I'm with you. Visibility is so important. So important. And so as far as your circle of Black skaters, like, can I tell you that like you see like in TV, or me, I see on TV, like, you know, in like the sitcoms, they're like the circle of beautifully manicured women, of like melanated women of different heights and complexions and occupations and hairstyles and fashion, and they're all like incredibly impeccable and manicured. And I'm just like, that's not real life. Like, I'm like eating my Cheetos and dust and like wiping my hands with my cat. I'm like, that doesn't exist. I was checking social media. CoCo Butther has some new Instagram stories. Let me check. The beautiful people that I just saw on my flat screen TV are your friends. This is y'all doing TikToks together, being amazing, incredible. I was like, oh, okay, so maybe they do exist. Maybe some Hollywood scriptwriter ran into y'all and like a fictionalized version of it.
You know what? It's so funny because I remember I had the same thing. You know, I was younger, and I think living single, I want, you know, a group of people to be, or sisters, you know, you watch these shows.
You manifested them.
We totally did. I'm like, I've never had one of these groups in my life. You know, I was raised in Ventura, a very small white community north of here. I went to Catholic school my whole life. I've always been the only Black girl, right? And so it's funny that we all found one another within roller derby, and we all have had a very similar experience where we never really had that community, or like, you know, that real group of sister friends that we thought, you know, this is my crew. And I think we all just we talked about that not too long ago, where we were like, gosh, I'm so grateful that I found you all, you know, that we found one another. And DJ Blackjack was visiting with us she came out a couple weeks ago, and Lauren Kill said, BJ's coming out, we have to get together, let's have our Black girl lunch. Actually, we call it In Living Color. In Living Color is the group, the little group name.
I can't.
And and she's like, everybody get together, and it's all just Black roller derby skaters. And you know, all of us have played for however many years. We finally got Honey Brasco to, you know, get off her tough, and she comes and hangs out. And it's just kind of this group of women to support one another through derby, but also just support one another as Black women. And it's so powerful. Magic, if I could tell you how empowering it is just to be in a room full of that much melanin and that much intelligence. And then we start talking derby, you know, we try to solve the problems of the world, including roller derby in our little brunches. But it's very empowering. So
I love it. I'm happy that y'all are doing getting together and making community happen. Amazing. Hollywood industry listeners that tune into this podcast as they usually do. Please ask your assistants and your interns to create a dope ass like sitcom or, you know, series around the Living Color, please. Because I need to.
Y'all, Honey's in the business. Honey's in the business. We should make her do it. We should make her write it.
We need to see ourselves.
That's what she does. We need to see ourselves. We do need to see ourselves.
Sitting with a tuxedo cat in New York City in the freezing 19-degree weather.
Which is still us. But that's still us. You're just living the other side of it. Well, you come out here and you can come to In Living Color. I'll make sure we have a brunch when you're in town. So.
I love that. That'd be dope. How are you on time, by the way? I don't want to bogart all
I'm good. I'm chilling, looking at the beautiful sunset over the hills of Los Angeles.
Nice. I just saw a penguin walk by here. It's
right. Ice cubes. It's raining ice cubes. I know it is.
With some, like,
that's why I had to get out of there.
Skis, cross country skis. You know how it is.
Oh gosh, it's just so complicated.
You know how it is. Yep. And then y'all wonder why we're so mean.
Listen, I don't think New Yorkers are mean. I love New Yorkers. I love living there. I never had any issues. I loved it.
Awesome. You're welcome back.
Yeah.
You can come back.
Thank you. I will come back. I will come back and visit. I'm not going to come back and stay. I'll come back and say hi.
You're like, I'll come back in May or June.
Correct. Listen, it's a very short window. I will come back between May and June. I won't come down anytime between July and September. And then I'll see you again in October. And I won't come back again until the following May.
Done and done. Okay, so I feel like in the midst of our conversation, we've definitely spoken about visibility and inclusion and other sort of insight and tips. But I wanted to ask the question head on. Do you have any other sort of suggestions or tips or things that you would like to see in the world and speak into existence in terms of like Derby and its lack of diversity? And
one of the things, and we did touch on it, is doing more within the communities that could use this. You know, I've heard your podcast and I've had this conversation with so many other different people, and we always talk about how finances can be so limiting as far as playing roller derby. And I've heard people in different leagues make that excuse where they'll say, well, we would love to have more people play or skate, but roller derby is expensive and it's a hobby. No one deserves, it's not like a right to live. No one just has to have roller derby in their life. But I think being able to work towards breaking down the financial barriers that keep certain POCs out of the sport would be my main focus. I know certain leagues, Rose City has a pretty extensive lender gear. And I think certain leagues, I know Angel City had a loaner gear library. I think if certain people, I don't know why I say certain, if roller derby in and of itself is interested in diversifying the leagues, the sport, WFTDA, you have to make it accessible to everyone. So making it so that you have to pay $75 a month in a league, that's going to cut people out. Making it so that skates are $600-$700, you're going to cut some more people out. Making it so that people can't actually play the sport unless they're willing to travel, you're going to cut out another set of people. The way the sport is set up now, it is set up for the privileged. People who have the disposable income to pay for gear, the disposable income to travel, the disposable income to be able to miss days of work because you either have to practice or you have to go to a tournament. I think that's where I would focus. I would focus on how to make it more accessible financially. Make it so that people have gear that they can get to. Make it so that if people have a problem paying dues every single month and they can't afford $75, $65, $100 a month, what is it that league can do to support that skater so that they don't have to quit just because they can't afford the dues? I know it's sort of like in this utopian dream world that all of these things can happen, but I feel like we've worked so hard to make this sport inclusive for other different groups of people. Roller derby is very, very open to the LGBTQIA community. We've gone beyond. We still have work to do, but roller derby has gone above and beyond to try to make this sport inclusive for that community, for my community, the LGBT community. But in the same breath, we have not done the same thing just to reach out to people who are still here, have an interest in the sport. The LGBTQIA community is already part of the derby community. That's not something we need to focus on currently. As far as bringing more people in, we need to focus on treating them better, treating all of us better while we're within the sport. But if we're focused on bringing more people in, the only way to diversify it is to try to channel some of that energy and those goals that we keep setting forth on people who don't currently have access to the sport.
Or don't feel welcome in the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game because I feel like with oppression Olympics of sorts, it's always like in order to get more attention, someone else has to lose attention. No, it's not pie.
No. It's not pie where this person gets 3 slices of pie, there's less pie for me. That's not how it works.
No.
If it's what I'm saying is where we have focused attention and we have focused resources on this particular situation, on this particular goal of making it more inclusive for the LGBTQIA community, we can do exactly the same thing for POC skaters.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be, well, you know, we've done it for this group of people, so now we can't do it for this group. Or like you said, it doesn't have to be a zero sum.
Yeah.
It's almost more painful because we know it can be done.
Yeah.
We've seen it. We've seen it. We've seen that it can be done. We've seen that policies have been written.
When there wants to be movement in certain directions, the wheels move faster. The engine starts running. Like everything happens with quicker velocity. When there's the interest, when there is the desire, the actual intent. Correct. For sure.
When the intent
I have a hypothesis too, that I think part of it is also that white skaters and white people, in order to do that work, would have to acknowledge guilt and swallow fragility, and those are things that aren't really come upon. Like you have to want to do those things. You have to actively practice and do those things, and those aren't the easiest things to come by in just within Derby, but also everywhere in this country, everywhere. Yeah. So of course, within the little small tiny Derby bubble, it's going to also be a challenge. But it's like what Queen Latifah said. She's like, why am I supposed to come in and fix a problem that I didn't cause? Like, it's not a problem that I didn't create. It's not I'm a Black skater and I want to skate, and I don't want to have to be over penalized and miscolored, and I'm not responsible for any of those things. I didn't do that. So why am I the one that has to now fix it? And I think that's true. Like it's the onus is not on people of color. The onus is on the majority to do the work and make the changes. Yep, for sure.
And to educate themselves and to stop waiting or putting the workload on POCs. Oh, well, educate us. Okay, well, we're a good 500 years into having Black people in this country. I don't know how much more education you need. If you need education, then that's something that you can certainly seek out. I think the thing that is painful to me, like Queen said, I didn't create this, but now I'm being asked to solve this problem.
And solve it once and for all, as if it's something that can be applied like a Band-Aid. No, that's right. It's a practice.
Or if you felt that we had this answer, you don't think we would have already told y'all? Sure. If we had this fix, if we had this magical button that we could push, or this magical phrase that we could say to you that would make everything better, we absolutely would have done that. But the problem is that the accountability is being pushed from those with power to those who don't. Yep. And that never fixes anything.
And then when nothing happens, everyone shrugs their shoulders.
And everyone shrugs. Well, we tried. Well, but did you really try? I had a situation where I was called Black and then I got an insubordinate. Because I refused to leave the track. I heard my number. I heard it, Black 910, but I was skating Angel City and I was red as hell. And I refused to leave the track. I remember when I got the penalty. I remember when he gave me an insubordination and I was sitting in the box to serve my 2 penalties. I remember my coach coming over and looking at me and saying, well, he said he didn't say it.
Wow.
That's the kind of accountability that I'm talking about. It's this very hard place of, do you want the coach to flip tables and to stop the game and to raise hell and to say this is an injustice? You absolutely do want those things. But then sitting there in the box, there's this guilt of, well, I don't really have the right to ask for that. And I don't really want the game to stop. And maybe it was just a mistake. And so then we make all of these excuses and allow things to continue to wash over us. These little passive aggressives, these microaggressions and aggressive aggressions, and nothing really happens. Did I want my coach to make more of a stink? I did. I wanted my coach to make a stink and to make sure that I knew and that everyone else knew that it was unacceptable. That's the only way for roller derby, in my opinion, to get better, is that all of these other people who are actually being listened to actually make a stink. Maybe you do have to flip the table. Maybe you do need to end the game. Maybe we need to stop and reevaluate before we move on, and stop allowing your POC skaters to just eat it because it's more comfortable and it's easier. And, we'll be able to move on, and maybe we can address it at a later time, and then it never gets addressed. That's the only way to fix it.
I agree. It's frustrating that it even has to come to that too, because I think about Atlanta, and they were playing at ECDX for seeding. They had real repercussions at the end of those games. And not that you didn't or anyone, you know what I mean? But they also
them.
Invested their money to be there that weekend, and to leave to stop a game would mean all of that would have been lost. All of it. Yeah. It's a hard situation.
But we shouldn't have to be in that. Yeah. We shouldn't have to be in that position where you make us where we have to either pick all of the money and all of the wasted investment or being treated appropriately. That's not a reasonable choice.
Or being treated with the respect that full humanity entails, and
correct.
Yeah.
Or just as any other player on the track.
Yep.
Any other player on the track, is anyone else on the track, they expect to be treated a certain way. Unfortunately, POC skaters do too, but we don't expect the same thing. Any other skater that's skating on the track is thinking about what they're going to do. They're thinking about how they're going to play, staying focused, making sure they're getting their stuff taken care of. Whereas other POC skaters are thinking, okay, I have to make sure my numbers are correct. I'm not going to wear black numbers, because if I wear black, the ref may call me black instead of, the actual color that I'm wearing. So let me make sure that my armbands are red so that he can see that they're red. And then I don't want to hit too hard, because if I hit too hard, I'm going to get an egregious. But, so just thoughts that other POC skaters have to think about, that the rest of the derby community never has to think about. We should be afforded at least the same equality, that when I'm on the track, I'm thinking about the same thing that the white skater is thinking about. I'm thinking about playing my hardest, skating clean, staying on the track, doing those kinds of things.
It shouldn't even have to be like a luxury. Like being treated normal and average shouldn't be the luxury.
Right. Why is that the exception? Can I just be regular today? Can I just be regular? A normal, regular person. I mean, and it's sad to have to expect that or to want that, but I mean, that's the world we live in. It's a sport we're in, at least now, for now.
For sure. Okay. Pivoting and wrapping up. Do you have a self-care tip?
I do have a self-care tip. Okay. And it's not going to be popular. And I know this is a roller derby podcast, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I don't feel like going to practice, I don't go to practice. I know that sounds absolutely terrible, but there have been times where I have been kind of hurt, maybe a little bit hurt. I'm sure I could have pushed through, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Now, I'm not saying I didn't go to practice. I maybe would go and I would sit and I would watch. But one of the things that I have found over my however many years of playing is that I've never gotten better when I've pushed through, ever. I've never gotten better when I've pushed through. People say you have to be tough and it's part of sports and you have to, the tenacity and so on and so forth. I have never, ever gotten better more quickly by pushing through. My self-care tip is, if you don't feel like it, don't.
Yeah. No, that is listening to your body, listening to yourself. Like, of course,
absolutely.
That's wonderful. I'm all supportive. Whoever thinks that's unpopular or, controversial, could go kick rocks. Hell yeah. Listen to your body. Listen to yourself.
Listen to your body. Listen to yourself. There's been those times where you're like, I really am supposed to be at home working. I'm supposed to be doing my job today, but I need to go and I need to go do this other thing. I found that if you allow derby to take over the things that keep you alive and well, derby will always be there. It will always, always be there. And when I allow myself to get caught up in the guilt of not going to practice, or get caught up in the guilt of, I can't do every single volunteer hour this month, I find that the rest of my life suffers. And when the rest of my life suffers, derby is not even a thought. So in order to keep myself active in derby, I need to make sure I'm taking care of the other things. So maybe sometimes I got to stay home and I got to work, or I need to rehab, or I need to sit this practice out.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love that tip. Thank you. And Thank you. what would you like to hold space for? This is a free space for any thoughts, anything you want to bring attention to, or just get off your chest, off your mind.
I know that everyone is well aware of QSA, Queer Skate Alliance. But if you're not aware of Queer Skate Alliance, please look them up. One of the things that really helped me feel more home in roller derby was coming out as queer, as bi or pan. And I would go to RollerCon. I've been to 5, 6 RollerCons, and every, Friday, there'd be the gray versus orange, or there'd be, these bouts that really support lesbians and people who are queer or gay. And I remember thinking, there's no space for me here. I really wish I could skate on one of these teams. I would love to support the LGBTQIA community, but I don't really fit into either of these boxes. And when Olive asked me last year if I would skate QSA, I cried. I'm crying now because I'm a big wuss. Because there was finally this place that said, it's not just about the G, it's not just about the L, but the B, the T, the Q, the I, the A, everybody else is included in this. And skating QSA was one of the most enriching experiences I ever had. One, I was able to skate with D1 high-level skaters, which is always the goal, to play up, to skate up, to challenge yourself, but also as a way to be out and to be out with my community in front of all of roller derby and all of the world and say, hey, I'm part of this. This is also my community. Thank you so much for welcoming me into it. So I shout out Olive, who started Queer Skate Alliance. And if you're looking for a home and you feel like you don't really fit in one way or another, QSA is a great place for you to be an alien. So I'm holding space for them.
Yes. And last but not least, who is your MVP? And that could be a person, place, thing, derby or non-derby related, or skating, non-skating related.
I love this. I love that you asked this too. First, I will start with my spouse. Everybody talks about having a widow or a widower, and it's not really, I wouldn't say that I died, but without his support, I don't think I would have been able to play the last 6 years that I have played, whether that's taking care of the kids or dragging them to my bouts or letting me go off to Vegas for a week every year in July.
And so be with your community.
And be with my community and do my thing. It took him some time to be able to accept who I am and to accept how important derby is in my life, but he has. And so I thank him for that. And then my other MVPs is a shout out one to my single ladies, the Black girl roller derby girls living single.
Yes.
Because they've kept me positive. They've kept me looking forward to something, and they reflect who I am. Seeing myself in them has helped me stay positive about roller derby, about being an African-American woman in America. And my last MVP is my 3 best friends. I met all 3 of these women while skating for Angel City. Aww. And they are, shout out to the Shadies, the 4 of us.
I love that everyone every clique has a name.
They do. The Shadies. They're the Shadies because we like to throw shade. But one of us is African, Nigerian. I'm Bermudan from Bermuda. And then one is Chinese and the other one is Mexican. Ooh. And so we're kind of this rainbow coalition. And so we kind of have all the bases covered, and we're all at different places in our lives. But these 3 women have held it down for me for I don't know how long. So I give them my MVP because women need to be supported by women.
Yes.
When the spouse is gone, when the partner is gone, when anyone else is gone, you have to rely upon those other people who continue to hold you up. So shout out to my Shadies.
Yay. Oh,
Yay.
I love that. On that note, shout out Shadies. Shout out Kilo.
Yes, Kilo. Oh, geez.
Kilo, I really sincerely hope you made it this far. Otherwise, I'll be very disappointed. I don't even know who you are.
I'll make sure she listens to the end. I'll make sure she listens to the end.
And Living Single and Living Color. Shout out to y'all too, you MVPs, QSA, Olive, and last but not least, you, CoCo. Thank you for being such a beam of light and strong, powerful force in this community. I remember when we met. Can I tell you that, like, I just need to tell you that I could tell that you were going through it. I could tell that you were in the last throes. And I think that had I been in your position, I probably would have walked away. I didn't know exactly what you had on your shoulders at the moment, but I could tell that it was really weighing you down and that you were trying to make it through. And like, so I definitely felt that energy from you. And to see that you ultimately found the way forward and found a derby league, and then you found a derby world that complements your world better, that fits better for your needs. I'm ecstatic, and I'm glad that you're still with us. I'm relieved and grateful that you were able to do that work and that you didn't give up. That's so awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that. I remember when we first met, I was like, ooh, this one's got ideas. This is exciting.
All right, folks, well, there you have it. Holding Space with Magical Realism is available on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube. Help the pod grow by subscribing and sharing it with friends. Rating and reviewing on Apple Podcasts also helps others find us. Follow the pod on Instagram at Holding Space with Magic Pod. Intro and outro music is by Sunsearcher. The song is called Latin Rhythm, and the cover photo is by James Corbett of Epic Life Images. Find him at Epic Life Images on Instagram. See you next time. Bye.